Hello and welcome to the Genius After Show, Chapter 2 of Einstein's incredible, very lusty life. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello and welcome to the AFTERBUZZ TV Genius After Show. I'm your host, Joelle Monique, and I am so excited because this episode had the love, it had the romance, and devastating heartbreak.
It had everything.
Oh my gosh. Panel, introduce yourself.
How you doing, AfterBuzzers? My name is Zach Silverman. I'm new to the panel here. I missed out last week, sorry, but I'm all caught up. You can catch me on all social media at Zach with a CH, Silverman 2.
We did miss you last week,
we
actually.
did,
Glad
yeah.
that you are back with us.
Glad to be here.
My name is Elysabeth Alfano, and you can find me on Dinner Party CHGO for Twitter and Instagram. And you may have noticed that I've taken a page from Albert Einstein's book, and I've gone with a little bit of Albert Einstein hair here.
Gone with
So
the gray,
I'm
the
kind
wilds.
of rock my Einstein.
Applause.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
It's been 2 years in the making, people, but it's done.
It's lovely.
It's stunning. So guys, tell me your thoughts on Chapter 2.
Oh, steamy, as you said.
Yes.
Love, life, and physics,
Yeah,
really.
seriously.
I feel like this song is really appropriate for
It's
the level
very
of
appropriate. It just keeps
steamy.
going in the background. You know, it's steamy is a great thing to talk about because I know I'm jumping a little ahead in the episode, but the whole experiment with the tube and the sound waves and heat and how it affects. I mean, that's just kind of the essence of the entire episode. You know.
And how
the
it
heat
explodes.
between these two people.
Right. Right, and I'll just add something to that. To me, a very interesting statistic or thing to note in this episode is that it was directed by a woman and it was written by a woman.
Yeah, it was.
So Angelina
really?
Burnett wrote this episode for TV, and Minky Spiro, who is now forever in my mind as one of the great directors, directed these two on screen, and they are so steamy. And
phenomenal.
every detail from, like you say, the physics and things
It
exploding.
all connects. It all
to,
connects.
if you remember when they're in Zurich and Marie is shopping, and it's all steamy there too. It's foggy.
Oh yeah, even
There's
in the background and
atmosphere
everything. The atmosphere.
everywhere in
That's
this
that's the
episode.
testament to Ron Howard and Brian Grazer. They just attention to detail everywhere.
And the two women.
And the two
Hold up,
women.
piece.
And the two women,
Because we're
yes.
going to talk a lot about
We
women
will.
and men and how much easier
That was
this
a big
might
theme
be
of the
for-
episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love how excited you guys are.
I'm
about
very
this
excited.
episode.
I'm so.
Let's dive in
get
and
into it.
talk about it. So we're back in Zurich,
We are.
and Einstein is he trying to be a knight in shining armor, or is he just genuinely like this? She's onto something, and I'm trying to learn. We learned last week Einstein is very serious about being able to ask questions. He's not here to repeat things. He's not here to just take what people give him, as we get to later in the episode. He wants to discover for himself, and he wants to be sure of the answer. And we get this great scene with a pencil case where
Oh, that was great.
yeah,
It all goes falling, tumbling down.
she's I cannot explain this physics theory, guys, but if you watch the show, you know exactly what we're talking about. They're talking about molecules and being in space and how they operate in different types of space.
What it was is according to the laws of, I think it was Newton, with the mathematics behind it, figuring out how to answer it one way, you should be able
Be able
to
to do it
reverse
the other way.
engineer
Yes,
it backwards.
right.
And so he's saying when you drop the pencils, we should be able to pick the pencils back up the same way, reverse engineering it. But obviously, laws of physics won't allow you to
That-
pick.
And why is that? They're questioning Newton. And his professor, who last episode I would have thought was like the knight in shining armor.
I liked him last episode.
so much last episode. And
There's a
this-
huge.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
but there's a limit to what you can take of Einstein. I mean, and I think that's what the professor has reached. You know, that Einstein has just taken it too far.
That's my problem with the professor and
Right.
a little bit of a lot of these teachers that you're seeing, where the nature of science itself is to ask why and to continue to pursue what is this, and he's just stuck in this, he's stuck in the mud. He's like, nope, this is how it is. This is what I was taught. This is what I'm going to tell you. This is a lecture, not a forum to ask these questions, and it's kind of, you can see where people get held down.
And it's disappointing because you see for Einstein that life is about questioning. And he says, you only get the why when you ask the questions. And in all of these classes, you're not allowed to ask questions.
None at
So
all.
for him, it's like you're not allowed to live. You're not allowed to breathe.
He has the same thing. I believe it was Plato who would go around and be like, I just have questions. And be like, you're a know-it-all and you're annoying and you're always bothering people and you can just never take the answer that is given. And
Yeah.
he's like, oh, I have questions and I need to know.
That's what the professor said. He's like, all your professors are saying how you're this know-it-all and you think you know everything, and he goes, that's the opposite. I don't know anything. I'm asking these questions. I love it.
Well, I love that, and I also love his zest for life. So for him, physics is synonymous with a dynamic way of moving through the world with joy.
Yes.
It's synonymous with sort of living and breathing and being alive.
Yeah.
And it isn't so for the professors, who seem sort of dead.
Oh, they're
a little bit rote.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like for a lot of scientists, especially mathematicians, like I am not like theory is like poppycock. Like it's outside of the realm of what we can prove. So why are we even talking about it? They want to deal in hard numbers and facts, and I think that's what made Einstein so brilliant. Was he was like, well, we know certain things, and so then we can hypothesize and theorize based off of the things that we do know, so that we can have further reaching conclusions. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
It's not there.
Yeah, and that was a beautiful point to me in this episode. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And I think later on in the series we're going to get to his understanding of faith. And he's one of the very few, we talked about this last week, he's one of the very few scientists who feel that science and faith can kind of walk hand in hand, because you have to have a little bit of faith if you're just going on things that you can't see.
Yeah, seriously. And yeah, at the time, molecules wasn't a known theory.
Yes,
you know?
Which is so funny to hear.
Because
we have the knowledge and we're in the now. We're like,
thank you,
bro,
Einstein.
come on, molecules are
It's so
there.
obvious. It's just
with the
right
program.
there. That was like a
Gosh.
constant thing I kept writing down, like how modern day science is and how it's just like so common. It's just like, well, it's just a known fact for us. And to them, then it was just like this abstract idea that how can this really be? Like this is, it's.
So I want to get a little bit into the B story, because we get some flashbacks from Mileva Maric, who's played by Samantha Coley, brilliantly. So, oh my gosh,
she's
her
amazing.
performance is so
She
stunning.
has a number of performances in this episode,
And when
where
she
it just
breaks
takes
down,
It's so good. But what I liked about this is we start to see the difference of going to school for Einstein, who is Jewish and has had some, obviously there's some racists and some people who would rather he adhere to the program, as we've been talking about.
but they show up later. We
come back around to it, yeah. But Mileva is a woman, and everyone's like, why would she even want to be here to learn in the first place?
And handicapped.
Yes.
So she's
Oh,
double.
yeah.
She's got double.
And we see
trouble.
right at the top of this episode, the professor, like the minute she starts the question, he shuts her down so fast. He gives Einstein a little bit of brevity, like a little bit of space to speak his mind.
Well, that was the thing. It wasn't even that it was on her. The professor saw that she was the distraction in the class. Einstein was doing one of these. And instead of calling him out, he calls out Mileva, and it's the sexism against.
Absolutely.
And there's a few times in the episode where he has mentioned it, and she's Slavic, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's from Serbia.
Serbia, yeah, and I think he has a thing against Slavics also.
Absolutely does. She's dangerous.
He
says.
doesn't
dangerous-
even
yeah.
he doesn't even recognize her. At the end, when they're getting their exams, he says, "I've loved having you gentlemen in my class."
And smacks
and
the
then
paper
he just
down.
basically flips it to her.
He doesn't want to teach a woman.
No, he doesn't.
Which is, again,
Quite
foolish.
honestly, I think she's smarter than he is too, and he knows that.
Yes.
And
Well,
he doesn't want that.
he calls Einstein one of the most brilliant minds he's ever had the ability to teach, and yet she scored higher than him. So
Exactly. He does not acknowledge that.
we're dealing with some crazy stuff here.
Although in the end, and I am skipping ahead, but she doesn't end up passing her exams because she's pregnant.
We'll go into her history in a bit.
Right.
That's too far ahead. That's the end of the episode. Come on.
But Einstein is clearly following. He's following her to the library and like,
it's
please
just so
talk to me. And I say, it is so like young, innocent romance. Though I was not expecting to be the romantic part of my brain to be so enlightened during watching
during
this.
a show about science, huh? Yeah.
Yes, so spirited to see the two of them together. It's just. It takes you back to like a first love.
Yes.
I mean, they play it so well, and the chemistry between them. Again, I have to hand it to the director, Minka Spiro, because the way it's cut in that love scene between the two of them and that play.
Well, did you see how it was like red? It was like roses. That the love scene. It was dark, but like they had this hue of reds in it, which is obviously passion and love and fiery.
Yes.
Yeah, they just cut it together beautifully.
They really did. And I like the scene in the library where
Which one? The first one or
the
second
first
one?
one.
Okay.
Where he's just
with the book.
Yeah, where they're the moment where they're kind of start to realize like, oh, it's not just that we both like physics, but that we think about it in the same way.
same way.
And I think it knew that before, because she gives him this beautiful rant at the end of episode 1 where she's like, you think I can't be here? Let me run down all of the knowledge I have for you.
Yeah.
Don't trip.
Yeah.
But here it's a shared experience. They're both kind of like learning and experiencing from each other.
Molding of the minds.
Yeah.
What I love
Seriously.
is after they've already had a night together and he's sort of goofing around on the violin and they're talking about molecules coming together in a ballroom,
Yes.
or under pressure in a small space, and you see the light in her eyes, like, oh my God, you're the first person who's actually really nice to me.
I mean, they had a cutscene to that, which
Yes.
was phenomenal. I love that because
Backflash.
there was a flash in the beginning. We got to see her backstory.
Right.
She was made fun of when she was a little girl, and there was that young boy who copied off of her, and then he was like pretending to gimp also,
So
and
horrible.
yeah, she grew up horribly, and then she's taken back to that same memory, but then there's Einstein right there in front
The
of her.
future.
Yeah,
and you can see that juxtaposition.
It was, and how light and like there's a hope at the end of the tunnel. She's like, I found my person. This is who I've been looking for, and like everything is right.
Her story is especially just contained in this episode is so tragic. To go from, she kind of reminded me of Malala in the first part of it, with her father just trying to get her into school, just being like, you should educate my daughter. And then to go from that to just fighting, to taking her cross country to pick up a singular book so that she can learn, even though he doesn't understand what it is she's learning. He just knows, like, look, my kid is smart and I'm going to give her the best life I possibly can. To then have that flipped in the argument he has with his wife, where he's like, shut up, I don't want to hear what you have to say, I've made a decision. And she was like, well, men don't marry women for their brains, do
minds.
they? I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
God.
Did that guys, I wonder if it hit you guys in the same way.
Well, what it said to, first of all, I was moved that he was fighting for his daughter so.
Yeah.
And I did feel the realism in the mother, not that the mother was not behind her or dissing her, but that
No,
she
she was
knew
just
how
following
life is.
what life has been for her mother, and
And
before
she
that.
knows
yeah.
what life could be for her daughter. And
Yeah.
so it's just an interesting dynamic, one more complexity in this wonderful story. If I can go back for just 1 minute, because we were talking about how Mileva's eyes just light up at the possibility that there's hope and that there's something good and positive. What I loved about that scene is that it's not one-sided. He also is elated with hope that he has found a woman, because usually it's only men that he can talk physics with.
Yeah.
He's found a woman and he sees a partner in her,
Well-
and both of them have that mutual respect of that we know there's something really special here. It's just beyond
Have
moving.
you guys noticed? I'll call him Albert for right now, because I think it's fine to call him Albert in these flashbacks and in Einstein when he's older.
Okay, we'll go with it.
Just to differentiate, Albert, when he's talking to his professors, he's talking to his friends, whomever. It's these moments of he doesn't really know what he's going to say. He's all over the place. His mind is scattered. He can't think too well. But then when he's with Mileva, it's this focus, this clarity. He is like, love is a through line for him, and it's everything is just so he understands everything, and he's not questioning anymore. It's strange. He's not questioning why. He's going with it, and it's. I love seeing the juxtaposition between his clarity and then who he is as a person, where he's always asking why, and obviously what allowed him to find all these other.
It's interesting to me, the duality that lives in him, this idea of the pure bohemian romantic versus this highly intelligent mathematician, which I always compare mathematicians to like very rigid, very focused, very type A types of
Kind of
people.
like his professor.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but you get none of that in Einstein.
No.
And to see him not just falling in love, but this idea that he could be like the
falling in love
violin and the
twice.
poetry,
Right,
yeah.
the way he uses poetry to kind of woo her when she's, especially for Mileva, who says herself that she's like, you have to be so cold in order to survive this,
Right.
and
She
you
has
can
the
have
so much going
slimmest
against-
chance
yeah,
of
seriously.
succeeding.
and we see that repeated over and over again in her school adventures. Just trying to get a seat in the classroom is terrifying. To
Yeah.
earning that seat means
Right.
cheating, which is clearly, that girl doesn't need to cheat. She's smart. She's like, why can't you just learn this? But she does it because someone's finally being nice to her, all the way to what we've just spoken about with her being mocked down the hallway full of people, and she's kept that with her the whole time. And to see
Made
someone
her cold.
Yeah.
It's tough. Yeah.
yeah, and to see someone break that down with just, as you say, pure honesty and like love, And it was just, I was not expecting to be this heartwarmed, y'all. It got to me.
And
a
that's
little
why
bit.
it's so heartbreaking, because you feel her just be carried away with him for the first time in her life ever.
And he's a pragmatic person where, like, he has this other girl, Marie, back in.
I don't know if he's
in
We'll
pragmatic.
get to Marie in a
I'm not
minute.
sure.
He's rational. He said it in the first.
No,
yes,
he's lazy.
no, he's not lazy.
No,
he said
no.
it in the first
Oh,
episode.
no.
I
He's
saw you guys
lazy.
talking
What
about
did
it.
he say in
I
the first episode?
He
What are you
saw in the
referring
first
to?
episode. Well, it wasn't the opening scene, but it was afterwards when he was with Betty, his assistant, and they were going at it. And then he's like, "Move in with me." And then and she's like, no. And he's like, well, why can't I be with you? And then
Okay, he doesn't
he is
understand
rational.
people. It's true.
He does not understand people,
But
but
I think
he's
it's-
applying science to everything. And
You're cutting him some slack. No, I think he's a little bit, personally, I think he's a little bit lazy here because he doesn't actually tell Marie himself.
No, he doesn't. I was mad at him for that.
Has
He
her
kept putting it
parents
off.
do it,
He kept-
and he knows he should. He knows that they're not really engaged, and people are talking about it, and she's expecting. And Marie's father says, like, don't do anything stupid
do
here.
goodbye, my girl.
And he just doesn't step up to the plate because it's inconvenient. He doesn't want to. He wants to get to love and physics
Yeah.
and
And
life.
see, and this is the thing. The way I viewed that is because I mostly have male friends, guys, and when they're done with the girl, it's not like, oh, I'm done. It's like, okay, how do I get out of this with the least amount of tears involved? Like, I'd like to back away slowly without hurting her at the same time.
out of here. Yeah.
And that's what I really feel like he's like, well, if I just ghost, like, maybe she'll just get over it. But unfortunately, their families have already intermingled.
Yeah,
like,
his sister was there.
Yeah,
They
now
just
her
threw
best
that in
friend.
there. I didn't see that
Families
coming.
were talking about marriage last episode.
And now
Yeah.
his sister's coming to
Einstein's
visit
mother.
at the top of this episode, and all through
And then
staying
his
with
friend
them.
came.
Yes,
What's his name?
God.
Lawson.
His friend's
Yeah.
gonna
Rawson
get
or
married
something like
now.
that.
Yeah. One of her
That's okay. I wrote that down.
All
How
this
quickly
intermingling,
love moves in I guess that time, that era. You know, he meets Marie, and it's just instantaneous. He meets Mileva, it's instantaneous.
Courtships.
It's a
It's
courtship.
a lot
It's-
different especially when you've been separated from childhood. Like, this is where boys go, this is where girls
Yeah.
go. And any kind of lusty feeling is then equated to love, as opposed to, like, oh, well, maybe this
There's
is
no
just a sexual
distractions.
desire.
Yeah,
Right.
they
Exactly.
don't know.
I think that's
I
where
gotta put a
practicality
ring
comes
on
in.
it so that I can have sex with it.
That's right.
Put a ring on it.
Yeah, so
Beyonce's
man.
everywhere, even in
Everywhere.
Einstein.
Yeah,
I don't
she is.
know.
Let's get to this teapot, because
Oh, this
to
is
me,
so symbolic.
this
Please.
Yes.
I've never seen a more beautiful, delicate
Piece of
prop
china, right?
mean so much like awfulness. Like, every time I saw it, I'm like, oh my god, just write her a damn letter, bro. Like, get out of there. Like,
I
this is
couldn't.
messy.
He's so nonchalant. And he's like, "Let's have some tea.
Oh my
Let's
God.
make me some tea." And I'm just like, "That's
Oh,
the same
bro.
teapot that you just got from the girl who's like head over heels with you."
He just doesn't process these things like other people. He just doesn't take it
Well,
in.
you know what? They said Einstein can do all this mathematician, but didn't know all this math and everything, relativity, but didn't know how to tie his own shoes. So
It's-
I mean, like, it makes sense. He just simple concepts.
He kind of walks on clouds. You know,
Yeah.
he's just not into the thick of it.
Hold on one second.
So-
Hey, Booth, I think your mic is on, because we're catching a lot of conversation back there. Hey, Booth.
Hey, Booth. Hey.
But Samantha, Cully, her performance here, as she breaks down and she hits herself, and she said, "I knew this would happen."
Some crazy,
And you're making me crazy.
The edit of that scene was awesome too, because there was like a slight jump cut edit where she like twitched and she's like, "I'm crazy." And it was. She's a phenomenal actress.
She's
I give her
fantastic,
so much props.
and I can see where he would drive her crazy.
Yeah, I mean.
And I can see where you fall in love with him as well. I can see both.
This is such an intense scene to me, because it's so clear that this is her first love, you know? Whereas it's his second. And I really like this moment when they're first starting to fool around, and she was like, this is a joke. Like, I don't trust what's happening.
She said,
yes.
are you just shaking the sheets?
Yes,
That was a great
right.
little expression.
Yeah,
Is this just
absolutely.
shaking the sheets? Because tell me now. And like,
I have things to do.
Yeah.
And to be an ambitious woman at that time, and then also to be falling in love for the first time, like, my God, like, that breakdown scene really resonates because of all the work that the creators did beforehand in showing, like, how hard that life was.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, see, you know what I love about that is that for Einstein, when it comes to physics, he can extrapolate and he can see out here and he can look to the future, so to speak. But in life, he's in the moment. He doesn't think about this might go wrong, or I've got a teapot from someone else, or he's so
lives
there in the moment, and I can see where that is just enthralling.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, he has great one-liners like, there's only you, and, oh gosh.
But he's sincere. I don't doubt
No,
him.
I don't think that they're, I don't think
he's
that they're playing.
100% sincere. This is not like I'm just trying to
Yeah,
get
I
better.
didn't read any fakeness, but they are
Right.
incredible lines. Like, despite like the man,
He's
he
flirting
knows
with
he's
her.
good with his words.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm not condemning him being good with his words. I'm just saying it's easy to fall for someone when you are being spit out these like, really beautiful words, especially for someone who worked so hard not to let herself feel anything.
Yeah.
Yes, she says that I have to be cold, and like you were saying, I really have to work at this.
Yes.
Just that people give you off the cuff because of your manhood, so it's hard for her in
that
so
was
many
a low.
ways.
I mean, that was a good low blow, but yeah, that was. I didn't even seem like it registered with him when she said that too. I heard it, and like I barely heard it, but like I wish he heard it more because he's a smart enough guy and he knows what he was doing. She's like, "You're siphoning my time and energy," and to leave it to a scientist to like say you're
siphoning my time and energy. Yes,
not you're taking away time from it. You're siphoning. Right?
Let me put this in words you'll understand,
Yeah.
maybe.
Right, yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
From everything from their science experiment to her wanting to do things by the book to get out on time, to them being in love in their bohemian stage. Oh my God, guys.
It's beautiful.
It's the dream. He's like, let's
You
just
know
stay
what?
in this room and like drink tea and talk
And they
science
do.
all day.
I think like weeks go by,
Look,
don't
we
they?
all-
Yeah.
Weeks go by.
Everyone,
I think.
I don't think it was weeks, but I mean,
No?
It was a long time because his friend
It was
in the
enough to
following
get- oh,
scene
actually,
is
it was
like
2
he
weeks.
just
It
came
was- I
up
think it
from the
was-
thighs
Yes,
of that
and-
gimp.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he got a letter from one of the professors saying you're reprimanded because you never show up.
No,
Yeah.
that letter when he was in the room with her.
Yeah.
That letter,
he
no,
got
that letter was from Marie.
No, I thought
No,
that,
that
was
was a
from the
letter from them.
professor.
What? You think so?
Yeah.
Did, yeah.
It looked
Because
it looked similar to the same envelope that Mileva found later.
No,
No, I think there's two because they said that just the scene before was the school being like, hey, we got to send this letter to let him know that he's being reprimanded.
Right.
That was later in the episode. That was like
No, I
really
think
towards
Literally
the
the
end.
scene before.
Was it?
think
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking about things the wrong way. Okay.
Yeah, so I really I don't know. I like that he was just like, it doesn't matter. I don't
he
even
was
care
totally
about it.
just like he was elated. Actually, he was like, things are great. You
I don't even wanna go to
Yeah,
class.
I don't want to go to class. They're mad at me. I don't care what they think. I don't have that much respect for them, which really is what comes through. But of course, again, he's not thinking of her at all, and she is going to be terribly reprimanded and in deep trouble for not being
and
there.
he only thinks about himself.
And he only thinks about himself, but not because he doesn't care about her.
No, not at all. Let's wrap up Mileva's story, and she goes back home later
does.
at the end of the episode. Some time has
Yikes.
clearly lapsed
Yikes.
because not only did she fail her exams, which
Yes.
heartbreaking. Real life story. She actually fails those exams twice. She does go
Really?
back
Yes.
and try to complete them at some point, and she fails again.
Which I'm surprised by because she is so brilliant.
I am not unconvinced that either they maybe tested her harder. You know what I mean? If there's a written portion of
didn't
the
want her
test
to
where it's a little
succeed.
more subjective,
Yes.
maybe they're
Probably.
like,
Yes.
she's not as good.
Yes.
She's only the second woman to have completed courses at that school, so nothing would surprise me about that story. Clearly, she's crackerjack smart, though. They could have just given her the degree. They cut Einstein a
Tiny
lot of
side
slack.
note there, she was actually enrolled in Zurich Polytechnic, but only Switzerland would let a female be enrolled. So in Germany, you couldn't even be enrolled. You
she
could
could
only
only
audit
the class.
So,
which we
you
saw
know,
later.
it's just against her in every single way.
But she goes back home, and oh man, the scene with her dad is so heartbreaking. I wasn't sure what the flinch was about at first. When
I
she's
didn't
saying
know
later,
either. Yeah, it
right,
took
she's
me
like,
off
None of us
guard.
could see. Yeah.
It was awful. It was so heartbreaking
Yes.
because this whole episode they've established what a great pair the two are, like how supportive they are of one another, and she's like trying
Yes.
to teach him things, explain things, and then to see like there's something under the coat.
It's a drop back into like
Right.
what times are, and like I
Right.
mean, we saw a little bit of it when he was arguing with the mother.
Yes.
Where like his daughter is the outlier. She's the one that doesn't fall into where every woman is this way.
Well, it's like Trump with his eldest daughter, where it's like, I expect all women to be kind of for my visual entertainment, except for her. She's
Except for
super
her,
smart, and I think she should take over my company.
Exactly.
I
Sometimes
just
fathers
don't
should
know
just-
if I can talk Trump and Einstein in the same conversation. I
Einstein and
don't
Trump,
think
let's
it's
not do that.
possible.
Einstein is not
I
like
just
Trump.
don't
This girl's
think so.
father is like Trump.
Fair enough.
In that sometimes guys think like, hey, my woman, the woman I sired, great. All other women belong in this category.
Category.
Yeah.
And men make a lot of exceptions, I'll say. I think that happens a lot.
Absolutely. So she's pregnant.
She's pregos.
Einstein, Albert, nowhere around that we can see yet. What happened? We don't know yet. We did see, and I won't go too far into this, but if you stayed after to see the previews for next week, she's saying that he didn't abandon her, but then they're having some fights. It's not looking good. She clearly didn't stay married. So lots of questions as to what will be happening with that relationship.
And I want to know what this does to her career, because I'm rooting for her. I mean, I know now history tells us that she did fail twice. But
well, that's probably why. The second time she was with child.
But that doesn't mean she didn't go out and do amazing things. But being a single mother at that time, infinitely more challenging than today, just because of social standards and norms.
Even though they do get married. They do get married.
They are married for time, but for how long? Is he around it all? Who knows? Easy enough to say, though, died in a war. Lots of people did that. I want to go back to the...
Wait, I'm sorry, died in the war?
Yeah, what?
World War I is approaching soon, right?
Yes.
But Einstein doesn't go.
That doesn't matter.
Okay.
If you're pregnant at the time,
I see.
no
you
one
can
knows
say
who the baby
I get
daddy is.
I get it.
He was a
He's
soldier.
a
He
soldier
died
in
in
the
the
war.
war.
Fine.
I
see.
Clever. I like the way you think.
Gotcha.
I want to go back to the Wintlers. Because, one, I love this family from the first episode. I'm a total bohemian, like, on the inside, so, like, large family dinners where you talk, like, politics and studies is how I grew up, so it was really cool to kind of see it projected there. I was kind of surprised at how Einstein decided to break it off with Marie. Did that letter to her mother surprise any of you guys? Or
No, it was to the father.
Was it to the father?
to the
I
father.
thought it was to both of them. It was to the parents.
Oh,
I
to the
thought.
parents.
Okay.
The Dear John letter? Or
Either
the Dear
or.
Jenny letter, I guess you could call it.
I was disappointed in Einstein. And I'm going to say that's really the only time that I felt truly disappointed in him, because I feel that up until now, even though he's really not being fair to Mileva, he's not doing it intentionally. It's just not in his scope of being. But he knows better. It's really sort of like tail between your legs to have the parents do the dirty work. And he's known for months now, because he tells his friends, like, stop it. You know, I'm not really that into Marie. I know we're a couple, but really, you know, I don't want to spend the rest of my life not being able to talk physics with my partner. So the signs are all there, and he does nothing about it.
So what should he have done?
Well, he needed to get on a train or a bus like he had done in all the weekends past, and he needed to talk to Marie in person and tell her why, and tell her with his eyes, because he is so emotive. He is a very emotional, persuasive
It was
guy,
certainly a cowardly move
Very
to be like, hey parents, can you break up with your daughter for me
on my behalf, because
And
I'm really busy.
And it's because my work.
I just don't have time for this.
And studies and
like they're not all professors and going to school and stuff.
Yeah,
Right,
I know. Yeah,
right.
they're all doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting how he chose to break it off with her. I also thought it was interesting that he, especially because of the relationship he's built with that
With the father.
Family.
Yeah, specifically the father, who's kind of a mentor to him. So I wonder if that relationship is able to stick around, or if it's like, you broke my daughter's heart, I don't want to see you.
It's gonna kind of have to, because his friend is marrying what's her name's sister now.
Yes.
So I feel like that's gonna kind of intertwine.
Yes, although I imagine there'll be some kind of wedge between Einstein and the father, because the father did so much to foster Einstein's career early on, getting him to think creatively and encouraging him to not be just a peg in the wheel. And so I think Einstein has let him down in many ways, it seems.
Yeah, definitely. And I felt bad for Marie, because she's sitting at the sink and they're doing the dishes, and she's like, you know, like, you didn't learn French and I'm not good at physics.
That was such a great scene. He's like
was.
rambling on, and you could just see like her eyes just go, and like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then she starts speaking in French, and he's like, the same thing happens, and he's like, I don't understand. And she goes, exactly. And I mean, it was heartbreaking, because like you saw in his eyes, he's like, what am I doing? Like,
And you also saw him say, I understand. You don't want to talk physics. How his heart sinks with that.
He is very good at showing the actor is very good at showing his emotion.
Johnny Flynn.
Johnny Flynn. There's been a few scenes that the clarity that he has, that he shows, the distinction between his love for science, his love for Marie in the first episode, and then his love for Mileva, and just, I am in love with his performances. He's just phenomenal. He is, and I mean, needless to say, like, even the accents are just like on point.
flawless.
I don't mind it at all.
No.
You know, and I normally do.
And I also think they're so well directed. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a winning card, a hand of cards here, because the actors and actresses, so Samantha Coley and Johnny Flynn, are outstanding. And then I think the direction and how they're cut and all the scenes and the background. I mean, so much is there to just make it full of
You know what
love.
also adds to all this? I'm surprised you guys didn't mention it last time. The music. You guys know who the music producer is of this?
Tell us, Zach.
Hans Zimmer.
Oh, that makes sense.
Hans Zimmer is a phenomenal producer.
Well-
I was watching it, and then like I remembered seeing in the credits like Hans Zimmer. I was like, oh, no wonder. Like the love scene and oh man, that was just so much running through my
Nat
head.
Geo really hit it out of the park
Yeah.
here, I think. So they're, no holds barred. They've got Ron Howard, Brian Grazer.
They went all out.
Yeah, Joffrey Rush. Yeah, they're.
It's stunning what they've been able to do so far. I'm curious to how you guys felt about the structure of this show. Last week we talked about how time is always a question on Einstein's mind, and we're going back and forth. But this is a very linear, singular focused
This episode,
storyline.
I wrote that down. This episode was in his young past. It dealt with time and dealt with nothing is present, but it dealt with his young present and then Mileva's childhood. And it was interesting. I was like, wait a second, there's not a time where we are going to the future to see anything. And I was kind of like, okay, I was okay with that because it was about Mileva and Albert at the time.
Yeah, I felt the same. I didn't feel, because it was so. I felt the entire time that I was in a whirlwind, that I was spinning with emotions and love and experience, and
It was
visually
fiery.
it was
It was
so
passionate. Yeah.
Visually it was so exciting that I didn't feel for a minute that I was just watching one singular storyline. Although you mention it now, and of course we were, with the exception of some flashbacks in their childhood, but did not bother me at all. Whereas in the first episode, I did feel that, and there was more back and forth in time in that episode. I did feel like, okay, they're just telling me the facts as we know them. And I liked the first episode, but I loved the second episode.
Yeah, this kind of definitely kicked the story into high gear. I did
Yes.
miss Jeffrey Rush a little bit.
I did too.
But it's because he's like so grandfatherly and sweet. And I think that's obviously the Einstein I'm most familiar with is this
Sure.
older guy. But learning this and getting to experience what is a greater love story than I think most movies are capable of telling now in such a short and condensed
we'll have
form.
a long time for
It was amazing.
Let me ask you, do you think every episode is going to be like this now, or do you think we're going to have those time jumps back and forth?
I think it's going to be a mixed bag of things
I think
depending
we'll
on
always play with time.
Yeah.
Since time is such a big
There's
question here.
so many cool little like alludes to time
Yes.
in these episodes.
Yes.
One, did you notice how it went from I think it was fall and then winter passed and they came back
And the
then he
beautiful
had it and then he
school.
had his mustache.
Yes, I loved that.
I was
The
like,
mustache,
hey,
yes.
it's kind of the Albert Einstein we know. It's great.
Trying to get mature.
But it happened off of the last scene right before it, where he was talking with his professor, and his professor, I think at the time he was looking up to his professor and was just like, I think he respected him at the time, because he had mentioned, he's like, listen, you need to get in line with things. Like I like your tenacity, what you're talking about, and
You
the
have
questions of
extreme
why
talent.
you're
Yes.
But I will help you graduate, and once I help you graduate, I will get you, things further. And I think Einstein saw that, and it was a moment of him like recognizing and looking up to him. And I think the mustache was kind of an ode to his professor. He might be.
Interesting.
I mean, because everyone else has beards and everything, and here's his professor with the mustache, and him. I could just be going off into
I had
left
a very
field,
different
but I don't
feeling
know.
about that.
Really?
Yes, I thought when his professor was saying, I can secure your future. So you should, basically the professor saying, as I read it, you should really be sort of kissing up to me. And I saw Einstein kind of taking it in, but just being like, I don't really know how to do that.
It's
I know what you're saying is good, but
It's absolutely a repeat of his father. It's another
Right,
strong
another
male figure being like, I know what's best
authoritarian.
for your life, and you need to follow this path. And we see that come to its natural conclusion when Einstein's like, look, I want to study this other thing, and this girl who I like is telling me about it. And he's like, you do not need to hang out with this Bolshevik. She is crazy. She's going to get you into trouble. And this is theory, and I do science. Like, I want sound
Yeah.
science. And his whole heart is breaking because this is the guy. He was supposed to be the one who understood him and who sent him to the Bohemians in the
got
first
him in
place.
there.
Yeah, he
yes,
got
who
him
got
in
him
there. He
So
did understand him.
I
That's the
loved
thing.
that scene because there we get a sense for Albert Einstein sticking up for right and wrong, which I think we'll see all throughout Einstein's life. So there he sticks up for Mileva, and he says she's done nothing to you except bring out questions and information and seek to edify. And
Well,
also,
he was kind of calling him out on the sexism of things as well. 'Cause
Right,
I think
yes.
he finally realized, he's like, what has she ever done to you?
right,
Like, and,
right.
and
I loved it.
I think
I
it was kind of
loved
a jab where
Yeah.
he was like, she's smarter than you. I don't like it. She's
your
smarter than you.
face.
You know what?
Yeah,
I
there's one
liked
more
it
group
too.
of characters we need to talk about, which we
Please.
kind of touched on, and that's Albert's friends from school.
I
His
love
two
them.
buddies.
Our comic
They're
relief.
cool.
I
Yeah,
love them,
yeah.
These clowns are so
know.
adorable.
Aren't
I
they
love
so?
the moment in their dorm room where they're all just kind of talking about, like, what is a wife for? And you need to settle down, and like you're not supposed to talk to them. Like, what are you doing, bud?
It's for love, he says. It's for love. And it's totally the bohemian.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so what I loved about that scene is, you think this is all happening in days gone by and, centuries ago, but some things never change. And like
Yes.
smack talking smack, it doesn't really change. Whether
What
it's
am I-
like
Einstein
early
wasn't there and he had to
1900s or-
throw a pencil at him. And he's like, yeah.
What are you doing
Talking
hanging out
smack.
with you, bourgeois?
Bourgeois,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Bourgeois boys, yes.
So cute. I really liked them and their relationship. I liked seeing him as, to me, that made him more of a young man. Like,
Yes.
especially when you get kids that are kind of intelligent beyond their years, you age them up in your mind a little bit.
Yeah, they definitely seem a little bit older in my mind, but
Yeah.
at the same time, you could be like, oh no, these are still kids.
College
See him,
students. Yeah.
like goof around. I was like, oh no, he's
Yeah.
a young man.
Yeah.
He just happens to be really smart.
Yeah.
I liked them a lot. I liked even more though when he was able to stand up to his friend after he called her a gimp, and Einstein was like,
They did it twice.
Yeah.
The first time he kind of overlooked it. He was in his own head, and he like kind of complimented her. And he's like, oh, she kind of does have a what did he say?
A slight
something,
gait.
A slight
something in her gait.
Yeah.
Something in her
and then
gait.
he compliments her and is like, but her voice is
Yes,
it's
I
so,
can't get it out of my
yeah,
mind.
and that was nice. And then the second time, man, he was just like,
Yeah, don't even. Well, because he had just lost her.
yeah,
He
oh,
needed those
he-
notes,
he-
and there was no effing around. He wanted those notes now, and shut up.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, he loves her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
loves her.
definitely.
He loves her.
I like how
Yes.
cocky his friend was like, I need to be back for these notes too. Now, what I tell you about geometry, you don't know.
I used to be like that in math class. I swear to God, I used to sleep in my math class, and then like towards the end, I would just always do the homework, and then my teacher would be so mad at me because she would always like wake me up, and I always pass with flying colors.
This is how I was in English. I'm terrible at math. I never do it. But in English, I would have read the book already and
Yeah.
been reading something else. They're like, Joel, you need to read along with the class. I'm like, I finished that book 2 years ago. I'm bored.
I was the exact
Teach
opposite.
me something better.
I was all over math, calculus, everything, and I was always letting the boys cheat from my paper.
Oh.
Look at you, Mileva over here. Yeah,
Well, I don't know
Mileva.
But
about
it's
that.
also a smooth play, though. It's a smooth play. It's easy. Just be like, yeah, I guess you
Yes.
I already did the
Right.
work. The
Yeah.
knowledge is here. You're going to be the one losing long term.
Yes.
Before we get into predictions, I want to take a second to thank the people who have shouted us out on the YouTubes
Hey,
and
hey,
the
We have
iTunes.
shout outs. Thank you. Hey.
If you guys wanna help us out, if you like the show, if you like what's happening here, please go to iTunes,
Yes.
give us the 5 stars, give us
Yes.
a comment. We
Please,
will read
we
it
love
out
it.
here. Sometimes we have people in the chat. We love hearing from the chat and talking with you guys. You can always leave comments below on YouTube. Give us that thumbs up. It helps our producers know that you like the show. It helps keep us on the air. And if you guys want guests and cool, fun people in here, when you do that, it helps them know that you are watching the show and they can give you guys good insider information. We're working on bringing you guys some guests soon, hopefully.
Yes, we're hoping that.
Yeah,
I
that's what
know.
I've
We're
heard,
hoping
right?
that we have a biggie next week. So
Yes, but-
stay tuned.
Until that time, I want to thank Brian McGee for his review last week. He says, "Great reviewing, ladies.
Thank you, Brian.
I
Thanks,
really,
Brian.
he said I really enjoyed this show and how it addressed Einstein's flaws and all, from dealing with daddy's issues to wanting to be his own man." And sadly being sexist when he first meet Mileva, which totally did happen, as well as seeing how Germany was in denial of how the rise of Hitler was coming into play and the anti-Semitism that followed. I liked all of those things too. It became eerily relevant at some times, and then this week just beautifully passionate. The show has such a large scope to it. I'm loving it.
It's gonna like hit home for a lot of people, and everyone can connect to it in some shape or form.
Yes,
It's-
absolutely. It's so human, this episode.
timeless,
It really
yeah,
is.
it
It
really
is
is.
timeless.
It's-
We're back to time.
We are back to time. Look at that. Eh. I mean, we could overlay,
Yes,
love.
yes, yes.
It's all relative.
perennial love.
I got you guys. All right, let's get into some predictions.
Predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Yes. What do you guys think is going to happen next week?
Well, I mean, her pregnancy. So we're going to go down the
go down that
trail of like what her life is like. So now we're back again to just how different it is for a man and woman in the early 1900s. She's having a baby, so that means she's plucked right out of school, and God knows what that does to her career or her exams, and the way her parents see her and how society sees her. And poor Mileva is as if she didn't have it hard enough.
Seriously.
It's going to get a lot harder for her.
I think actually we are even going to get to see, because in the first episode, Mileva apparently kept on calling.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of see maybe what happened in between those two times where the break happened, I guess. Maybe this was it right here. Yeah, I think that'll happen, and then we might go back to the future-ish with Jeffrey Rush and see a little bit more of the rise of Hitler. I think that the Nazis and everything will kind of come and be more of a strong, powerful force in the next episode.
I have to agree with you. I'm hoping that instead of focusing on the Nazi Hitler rise, that we go back into that interrogation room and maybe kind of explore the differences for man and woman there, and especially the relationship he has with his current wife as compared to his relationship with Mileva, because I think that there's going to be a lot of similarities. His current wife is just as strong as Mileva. She's emotionally
She's a
intelligent.
professor too, right?
Yeah.
Or a doctor of some sort. They mentioned it when they were in the.
She's in higher education in some capacity. Yes.
So I'd love to see how those relationships are the same and how they're different, and I hope we get a little bit of that.
Well, what I think we might see is that while Einstein progresses incredibly in physics, he might not really progress in this area. I'm not sure we're going to get a big leap of emotional intelligence
If
here.
the opening scene of the entire show is any indication, we will not be getting any progression.
I did not see that. That was for the previews?
No, I'm sorry. For the very first for the pilot, when he's having sex with his assistant.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
he's still married. He
just
and
not
when he
there.
says so innocently, as if like he truly doesn't get it. Why can't we all live together?
I'm with.
He does not get it.
Most of my friends are in an Einsteinian way of thinking, in that, again, very bohemian, very just like, look, love is love. We're not here to interrupt anything. Just be honest about what it is you're doing. And I feel like he really wants to do that, but he doesn't live in a time where that, like, if Einstein was alive now, like, people would be like, whatever, he's poly, I guess, moving forward.
I don't know. I'm not so sure, because, this conversation comes around, I want to say, like, every decade. And it's always great in theory. It's never that great in execution.
I've seen it work. It's just, again, but it's about being honest, and a lot of people are not honest, and that's where things get. It's not so much in the sleeping with other people. It's in the, like, you're not being honest about it, and suddenly you're spending, like, less time with your partners. That's where it gets really messy. But if you're honest and upfront about it, and that's the lifestyle you want to lead, like, go for that, man. Have fun.
All the power to you.
All of our peeps watching, I'd love your comments on that too. I think that it's a little bit off the Einstein topic, but
it's totally Einstein.
I think that's a really interesting subject. If people think today that you could get away with poly relationships and have it really sustain. I mean, it's one thing for a week, but I'm talking about really in execution. I'm curious if people think that we're all progressive enough at this point.
It's not even about being progressive. Even Einstein, in his time, he said it himself. Mammals are not meant to be monogamous. Or humans.
It just doesn't stick as a theory. It's great, but people don't execute it exactly.
I 100% agree. Trust me. We're getting off topic here. We're going all way left field here.
Spilling that tea. I love it. Okay, yeah. So that was our show, and those are our predictions. If you guys have not heard yet, we're renewed for season 2. Yay! I'm so excited. This show's amazing. We obviously have so much more to explore of his life, from his time in America to the Manhattan Project,
right?
To even before, like, working in the patent shop, which also we got a little bit of tease of that.
Yeah.
So
science and religion and science and faith. I know that's coming down the pipeline.
And many more lovers. Until that time,
stay tuned.
Stay tuned for next time.
Tell people where they can find you.
Yes, you can find me at Dinner Party CHGO. That is on Twitter and Instagram, and you can also hit me up at my own website, thedinnerparty.tv, if you want to check out my new hair gig and how this all came to be. It's thedinnerparty.tv/podcast.
And you can find me on social media at Zach with a CH Silverman 2, and I also even have a website. I totally forgot about that. TheZachSilverman.com. Go check it out there. The whatever.
I love it. I've been Joelle Monique. You can find me all over the internet at Joelle Monique and every week at blackgirlnerds.com. Head over to Schmoes Knows Now. See my episode last night where we talked about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And I have very embarrassing interviews and a great new nickname, so definitely check that out. My review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is available on blackgirlnerds.com right now. I have an interview with W. Kamau Bell from CNN's United Shades of America coming out. And Saturday, follow me on the Twitter and the Instagram and the Snapchat because I am going to all of the best comic book shops in LA to cover it. We're going to meet a lot of Eisner winners. It's going to be so much fun. So join me Saturday for Free Comic Book Day starting 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Can I give one more shout out?
Get it.
I have a Facebook Live interview tomorrow with the director of Super Troopers, Jay Shannon-Veskar. So you know that movie. Yeah, so he's coming to my house, and I'm making him lunch, and we are Facebook Living from my house.
Check it
yeah, you
out.
can find. So my Facebook page is Elysabeth Alfano. We'll be Facebook Living around 11:45. So LA time, 11:45 LA time.
Perfect.
So check it.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.